Hello, and welcome to P.I.E. Projects, Ideas, and Experiments. Today's video is going to be a little different. I know, I say that a lot, but it's going to change stuff up. I'm going to get into a bit of a controversial topic here. I firmly believe what we're told about motor oil isn't exactly the truth. I know. You're talking about motor oil, the keyboard warriors, armchair mechanics and all that, which, full disclosure, not a mechanic. I know, shocker, right? But I'm not. I don't agree with the rating system. Now, I understand SAE, was it J300 or something like that, that actually sets the standard for the viscosity of oils, is accurate. It is measurable. But, due to personal experience and, well, just real world things, I don't think it's exactly correct. Now, if I can do it in editing, let's give this a shot. Most people, they see an oil rating like this. 10W30, as in 10W-30. 10W30. I firmly believe that when you're looking for an oil, you should, in your mind, read it as 10-W30. I know scientifically that's not accurate, but bear with me. Let me explain, and then you can type along in the keyboard in the comments if you so desire. And yes, I will respond. Now, here's the deal. Years ago, my family had a 90 model Suburban. Now, this Suburban had been purchased by my grandpa, new off the showroom floor at the dealership he worked for. So, it had been maintained like it should, with one exception. The Suburban called for, in the manual and the oil cap and all that, 10W30. He ran SAE 30, which is a straight weight 30. It does not change viscosity. Now, quick little recap for maybe people who don't quite know. Viscosity is the measurement of the resistance to flow. So a 30 weight oil is fairly thick, but a 50 weight oil is even thicker. A 10 weight oil is very thin. A 5, a 0 is very thin. Literally, 0 is akin to water. So, if you're looking at oil and something says 0W whatever, that's like putting water in your engine. Don't do that. I understand you need to stick to the manufacturer's recommendations, but my dealer said that I have to use this oil. What auto manufacturers do and what is good for your car are not the same thing. People really need to realize that. Older cars, and yes, I understand older cars used conventional oil. That's the situation I'm going to be talking about here in a second. Modern cars use synthetic blends or full synthetic. Okay, fine. But the viscosity and the viscosity improvers and indexes and all that stuff that they put in there still plays the same part. Any fluid, but we're talking about oil, so oil, when it's cold, it's thicker, meaning its viscosity rating is higher. So, when it's cold, it'll be 30. And we're using a straight weight 30 as an example for the first part. Straight weight 30 is 30. That's it. Whether you get real hot, get real cold, doesn't matter. Viscosity is 30. However, a multi-grade oil, which is your 10Ws, your 5Ws, anything with the W in it, will supposed to operate at a 30 weight at operating temperature. And a 10 weight when it gets cold. Now, 10W is not the same as an SAE 10. Let me clarify that before anybody tries to make that comparison, right? A straight weight or an SAE 30 is going to be a lot thicker than an SAE 10 or a straight 10 weight. But that's your base comparison, right? A 10W is actually a lot thicker than a straight weight 30. Again, this is according to the SAE's standards. A 10W is thicker than an SAE 30. But what they do is they put viscosity modifiers in there so that as the engine warms up and it thins out, it changes the viscosity rating. That's how multi-grade oils work. But if you notice something, you still can't get around the fact that when it's cold, oil is thicker. When it's hot, oil is thinner. That's just basic facts, chemistry, science, however you want to discuss it. That's just how that works. Now, here's a situation that made me question oil ratings. Again, had an old 90 model Suburban. Ran good, had issues, eventually got stolen. That's a whole nother fiasco story. But my grandpa used straight weight 30. That's what he used. And the thing ran good for its age. Then my mom got the car, and how she maintained it. But again, straight weight 30. That's what he used, that's what she used. I get the vehicle, and me trying to do things the right way, actually, firstly, I put straight weight 30 in it for quite a few oil changes. And here's another note. Just change your oil. Do not go extended life oil changes. I know the marketing says you can go, a year, you can go 7,500 miles. That's never a good idea. You have to factor in oil, the filter, there's a whole bunch of other things. Personally, I go 3 months. March, June, September, December. I'm very rarely at 3,000 miles in my vehicles. When that time comes up, I do it by a schedule. Easier to remember, to schedule out, have it done. I know the first Saturday of every third month, I'm doing an oil change. But that's me. You do you, that's just me. Now, once I got the Suburban, I decided after a while, I want to try to improve it. I want to do things the right way. Follow the manual. Do your, the way things are supposed to be. So, I went and had an oil change done. Had them put in 10W30. It was fine. Left the parking lot. It was okay. Less than an hour after getting an oil change done, I started losing oil pressure. And before you say anything, no, I checked the oil level. It was fine. Had plenty of oil in it. The only difference from my engine running good, like it should, and almost grenading, was I changed from straight weight 30 to 10W30. And what it came down to was, as the engine warmed up, the oil thins out, because that's what oil does. So it thinned out, lost oil pressure, and I had to keep the RPMs up to keep the oil pump going so that I wouldn't grenade the engine. Not even a day later, I went back, got an oil change, put straight weight 30 in it, and it ran fine. So the only difference between good running engine and bad running engine, in my personal scenario, my situation, I know things can be different for other people, was that I changed the oil. That was it. That was the only variable. And it got me wondering, why? Why did it do that? So I started asking questions. I asked mechanics. I asked people that I knew that knew a lot more about cars. I started going online. Granted, this was still back in the days of dial-up, so it wasn't as easy as it is today. When it comes to oil, you are going to find that if you ask 10 people a question about oil, you're going to get 15 different answers. Yeah, I know, math ain't mathin', but that's the way it goes. So I understand that this topic is going to irritate, possibly upset some people, but I firmly believe that you should look at that rating system as 10-W30. Your 10 is your operating temperature. Again, I understand the SAE standards, but in your mind, you should look at it as my operating temperature. When I'm going down the freeway, my engine's been running for a while, this is going to be my oil viscosity. The W30 is for when it's cold. This is at startup. This is at, somewhat below freezing temperatures. It's going to start to thick up. If it's, okay. Because when oil gets hotter, it gets thinner. Oil gets colder, it gets thicker. A higher viscosity number means a thicker oil. A lower viscosity number means a thinner oil. Therefore, a 10W30, however you want to read that, runs thinner at operating temperature than it does at cold temperature. And yes, I understand that people are going to say, no, it runs like a 30 weight at operating temperature, but it doesn't. I have literally first-hand experience on this. I'm not saying I'm an expert. But with that note, I have actually contacted a few other channels. Some permitted me to mention them, some did not. I do want to thank Motor Oil Geek for talking with me. I'll put a link down in the description and a pinned comment, something like that. Go check out his channel if you don't know. Hopefully at some point during this experiment, I can actually maybe do a interview with him. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. There are a few other channels, and to be honest, on the top of my head, I don't remember their names. But I'll put those down as well. There were also quite a few channels who, well, I know my channel's not that much. They didn't want to respond, or they didn't want me to use their footage. That's fine. But the whole point of what this experiment is going to be is I want to prove through basic testing. Now, I don't have fancy oil lab equipment and all of that. However, I do have access to somebody that does. So maybe at some point. This is going to be a multi-part, as I gather materials, as I go through the scientific data, to try to explain my experience versus what we're told, because they don't match. Okay, so there are some simple tests you can do. There are some very complicated tests that cost way more than I could spend on them. My goal for this series is that I want to show that 10W30 oil is thinner than a straight weight 30. I'm not going to deal with any other viscosities. I'm not going to deal with any specific brands. Now, the caveat here is that when this happened to the Suburban, we were using conventional oil, old school oil. That may play a part, and I understand that. So, what I want to do is do some tests with conventional oil and some tests with synthetic, like full synthetic. I would love to be able to find a brand that has both conventional and full synthetic in both of those weights, because that way I can eliminate the variables of manufacturing and additive packages and all of that kind of stuff. But that's my goal. Most of the testing, again, is going to be very low budget, very simple. I'm honestly, I'm not even going to be able to do the testing as well as like channels like Project Farm, which go watch him. He does some awesome stuff. But I don't have an industrial freezer and the ramps and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to try to do something somewhat similar, but I don't have access to that kind of stuff. Now, full disclosure here. If, when I'm doing my testing, that my hypothesis is proven wrong, I will admit it. If I'm wrong, and I can be proven wrong, I admit it. However, through personal experience, real world events, and very basic knowledge of things, I don't think I'm wrong. But if I am, that will be the conclusion. Then the testing becomes, why did it happen? Because the only variable that changed was straight weight 30 to 10W30. And I lost oil pressure and almost lost the engine. So if it wasn't because of the viscosity, and remember, it did not happen as soon as I started the Suburban up. It took a while, as in the oil had to get to temperature before it thinned out. If it sat, and it sat for a while, and then you ran it again, it ran fine until the oil heated up. So, if for whatever reason this experiment shows that 10W30 at operating temperature does run the same as straight weight 30, it doesn't. Then I need to then figure out why. Now, again, this is going to be a multi-part as I do things, but it's also to engage more people in the conversation, not as a clickbait thing. That's not what I'm wanting here. I do not want this to be clickbait. I want this to be a true discussion down in the comments. I understand it's the internet. You know, people are going to be people. But I want this to be a discussion. I want to actually try to talk to, oil scientists and people who work with oil and people who, change oil. Like, I'm going to try to find some mechanics that are willing to go on camera. I'm going to try to talk to a few people that work in oil labs. I'm going to try to have some testing done. The problem is a lot of that takes money, and I don't have a lot of money. I know, shocker, right? But that's my plan. So this entire video is more or less to get the fire under my butt to get doing this testing. It's something I've been wanting to do for a really long time. And due to various discussions on other people's channels, I want to actually get this done. To sum it up, very simple. My hypothesis is that a 10W30 at operating temperature will be thinner than a straight weight, or SAE 30 weight oil. That's it. That is my main hypothesis. If that is proven wrong, then I want to find out why my engine reacted the way it did. Feel free, go down in the comments, type whatever. If you have a suggestion of to why, maybe I can figure that out too. Let me know. If you think I'm just, knucking futs and can't put 2 and 2 together, well then, again, that's the point of this. This is one of the main goals for my channel, is proof of concepts, verification of ideas. I think something is the way it is for a certain reason, or I think something works or doesn't work that other people claim the opposite, and I want to prove it. I want to try to do as much of the testing on my own that I can. I know that's not going to be possible for everything, but that's my plan. Now, if anybody has any ideas, comments, suggestions, all that stuff, go down in the comments, let me know. If you can, like, subscribe, all of that. I'm hoping to try to get more of a reach on this than my other videos on this channel, because it's one of those things that has bugged me for years. Why did this happen? Everything I'm told says it shouldn't have happened, but it did. Thank you for watching P.I.E. And remember, be smart, stay safe, but most importantly, have fun. Knowledge can be fun. Knowledge can also be very overbearing. Good thing I don't have much of it. Okay, bye.